This girl suddenly discovered that no matter what answers she wrote on her test papers, her teacher would always give her a perfect score of 100. What was even more terrifying was that all the answers on her test papers would actually come true. For instance, one question asked who the current prime minister was. The girl thought for a long time but had no idea, so she randomly wrote down a classmate's name. Unexpectedly, that very day the news reported that her male classmate had actually become prime minister and was being interviewed on television. The second question asked for the name of the current US president. The girl still didn't know, so she had no choice but to leave the answer blank. To her surprise, the White House immediately announced that the president had gone missing. The girl realized she was getting 100% on tests despite answering everything wrong, and she began to suspect this was all connected to her somehow. She quickly pulled out her phone to look up the correct answers and changed the prime minister's name. Soon after, the news announced that her male classmate had resigned from his position as prime minister and returned to school. The girl told her classmate about this incident. The skeptical boy brought over a test paper and asked her to demonstrate this ability on the spot. However, before the girl could even start answering questions, the boy panicked and pointed into the distance. The girl was horrified to see the Tokyo Skytree in the distance actually dancing. It turned out the girl had taken another math test that morning and had written the value of pi incorrectly. She hurriedly ran to the teacher's office, where she found the teachers also watching the Skytree dance. She quickly modified the answer on her test paper, but this time the Skytree danced even more vigorously. It wasn't until an hour later, when the girl finally guessed the correct answer, that the Skytree stopped moving. Only then did the girl breathe a sigh of relief. How did the girl acquire this ability? It turned out that a few days earlier, she had come to a shrine to make a wish, hoping she could score 100% on her exams. Having figured out the strange events of the past few days, the girl quickly returned to the temple, only to find that the shrine she had just visited had disappeared. To prevent the world from falling into crisis, the girl decided to study hard. But the next second, she fell asleep. The next day, the teacher had another exam scheduled. The frightened girl looked at her teacher, hoping the questions wouldn't be too difficult this time. Just then, a classmate happened to see a news report that bottled water across the country was being frantically hoarded. Hearing this news, the girl felt this incident shouldn't have anything to do with her. However, when she got home from school, her father happily told her that due to the water shortage, his water purifier business was booming. Only then did the girl suddenly remember that in yesterday's exam, she had written natural water instead of natural gas. What was even more terrifying was when the girl saw news reports of riots breaking out as people fought over water. Frightened, she quickly corrected the answer on her test paper, and the riots finally calmed down. However, after everything returned to normal, the sound of her parents arguing reached the girl's ears. It turned out her mother always complained that her father couldn't make money, so she was planning to run away with another man. So in the next day's exam, the girl wrote that man's name as an astronaut. As a result, the man became an astronaut and was sent to outer space. When her mother saw this, she burst into tears. This way, her parents' relationship problems were resolved. Meanwhile, the girl's older brother had locked himself in his room and refused to eat because of poor test scores. The girl wrote on her test paper for her brother to regain his spirit, but this seemed to have no effect on him. Moreover, because their father wasn't making money, the parents started arguing again.